Hi guys, my name is Vanessa Smedley and I'm a painter. Well, the burning question today is, do you really only need 3 primary colors in order to be able to paint anything that you could possibly want to paint, just like your elementary school teachers told you? Well, we're going to find out if that's true, and we're going to use Schmincke Horadam paints for the first time. I've not used them before, they've been around for a long time, but I'm just going to give them a whirl. So, let's do this! Today for supplies we have our Arches sketchbook. It's 6 inches by 10 inches. We have an assortment of round brushes. Might use more than that, you never know. And then here's our Schmincke Horadam paint that we are trying out in half pans. This is a Cadmium Red Light, this is Helio Cerulean, and this is Lemon Yellow for our primaries. And they are set up in just a Bob Ross mint tin, which I felt like was a fitting tribute. So, let's get started. I've picked this bird to paint because it has all kinds of different colors that we'll have to mix. I'm going to start out by trying to mix that electric blue that kind of has a little bit of a purplish tint for the head. I'm going to start out with the Helio Cerulean, and I'm going to mix in some of the Cadmium Red, only I don't think that that's going to get us anywhere near that actual color because this blue is a cool blue that has green in it. And the red is a warm red that will cancel the green out. So I don't think we're gonna get a very nice purple out of this, purplish blue anyway. Okay, here we go, let's try it. Yeah, you can see that this blue has a lot of green in it still. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere even remotely close to that electric blue. We really need an ultramarine for this. So I'm going to just go ahead and give this a once over, a nice flat coat for now. Next we're going to mix this vibrant green, and the colors we have are going to be perfect for this because they both have green in them. Or in other words, we have a cool blue and a cool yellow. So it's not going to gray the color because there's no complementary color added in this. In this case, that would be red. If you want a more in-depth video talking about complementary colors and all of this color theory, click the link above. And I'm just mixing some of the blue into the green to make a dark green for shadow details. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that in while it's wet. Next we're going to mix up the color for the beak, and I think that's another one we're going to have problems with because it is a cool red and we only have a warm red to work with. So I'm adding in a little bit of that cerulean, and that is a blue that has green in it. So that is going to gray it down because green is the complementary of red. Every time you add a complementary, it's going to gray the color down, and honestly, it's turning out really muddy. So he's got kind of a tricolor beak. He's got like yellow on the tip, so I'm adding that yellow in, then we're adding in some cadmium red, and then we're adding that color that we mixed right close to the beak there. And I mean, it's kind of close, but it's definitely not the right color. It takes on a warmer, kind of more rust tone. For the yellow, we're just going to throw in some plain old lemon yellow. Now I'm using a slightly damp brush to lift some of that color out to give some of these highlights and contours on the beak. So this bird is called the rainbow lorikeet, and one fun fact about them is that the male and female of the species look exactly alike, unlike other bird species like cardinals. I don't know why I didn't do this when I did the head, but I'm going to go ahead and add in the chest part, or the lower chest part, abdomen part, whatever part this is. It's blue anyways. So I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to add a thicker consistency of the same color around the edges and then the shadow parts here. Some of the red for the little ring around his eyes. Next I'm going to mix up the orange for his chest. We should be totally fine for that since we have a nice warm red. So starting with the lemon yellow, adding in a little bit of the cadmium red and watering it down a lot. And then for the rest of the chest, we're going to use the lemon yellow. So I'm starting with the base coat of the yellow, and while that is still wet, I'm going to begin to drop in that orange in kind of a feathery pattern. We're going to skip some of the yellow because we want part of it to still be yellow, and we're just going to add in some very light areas of this orange, and then come back in with a little bit more cadmium red in the darker parts. Next, I need kind of a grayish shadow color for the blue, so I'm adding in some of the cadmium red to the blue I already have mixed up, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the lemon yellow to gray that down, and then I'm going to use that as kind of the grayish shadowy type color on the blue. So if you're wondering where these beautiful and wildly colorful birds are actually from, they are native to Australia and New Zealand. So you'd have to take a trip down under in order to be able to see these guys flying around in wild flocks. And to me, it's really trippy to think of them just flying around in the wild like that. I mean, but I live in America. All of our birds are not that colorful. Next, I need to mix up a black, only I don't have a black and all I have is 3 colors. So we're just going to have to mix up these 3 colors as dark as you can get it, which is not really going to be black. It's going to be kind of a darkish grayish color. We're going to use that for the middle of his eye and for the darkest shadows underneath the belly and a few other places. But this is definitely where I could use a Payne's gray for sure, yo. And right now you're saying to me, V, that totally looks black. And yeah, it does, because right now it's wet, but just wait until that sucker dries. It is going to lighten up to a light gray. Now that I have all of the major color areas kind of blocked in, I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, but then I'm going to come back in and start to add in some more detail. So I've got my green here, I'm adding in some of the red, oops, too much red, add in the blue and some of the yellow to make a nice dark green, and we're going to add in some feather shapes here to the green part. I've added a lot of water to my green, and I'm adding in a little bit of detail to the yellow parts. Then I'm going to add some of my neutral purplish gray around the eyes, and we will come back and fix this, I promise. Right now it's looking a little weird. Next, I'm adding a little bit more red to the edges here. He's got a few random red feathers, so we've got that going on. And then I'm going to come back in with my orange, maybe make it just a little bit darker, and I'm going to add in some more feather details on his chest. So here I've mixed up a thicker consistency of my blue, and I'm just darkening up this entire area. And I'm sort of leaving some sort of feathery patterns in there. I'm not going to paint in every feather, I'm just adding a suggestion of the feathers. And then we're going to do the same for the other blue area, and for the shadow areas we're going to use my gray purple. Then we have a few finishing touches here on the head, and I think we've taken this about as far as that we can go with the 3 colors that we have, so I'm going to go ahead and call that a day. Alright, so I'm not happy with that. I'm just not. So in order to get this bird properly painted, I'm going to add some colors. So I'm adding French Ultramarine for dang sure, adding Cadmium Yellow, Rose Madder, and good old Payne's Gray. And while I'm at it, I'm going to show you how I like to affix these things to these little tins. I've got some foam tape here, and I'm making it the size of the bottom of one of the pans, sticking it on there, and then sticking it in there. Then doing that for all of the colors, and it works like a charm. Okay, so now we begin. We are going to start out with French Ultramarine, and that is going to make the biggest difference in this bird. So really, I'm not adding anything to the Ultramarine except for in the shadow color, and then I'm going to add the Cadmium Red to that to make kind of a purplish gray shadow tone. So we're just going to add that all over the entire head, and while it's wet, I'm going to go ahead and add in my shadow color towards the bottom and under the chin and all that kind of stuff. Might as well do a wet on wet technique here. I think it kind of blends a little bit better, so we're going to go ahead and do that. This time I'm going to go ahead and do his belly next. I don't know why I didn't do that the first time, but there you go. For the green, I'm just going to do the green exactly how I did it last time because I had the proper colors for that. So we're using the lemon yellow and the Helio Cerulean, and it turns out perfectly lovely. The beak is another place that these colors are going to make a difference. So we're starting with Rose Madder, which is a cool red. And for the shadow, we're going to add a little bit of the Cerulean, and that's okay because the green will help gray it down and make it into a shadow color. This time for the tip of the beak, I'm going to start out with the Cadmium Yellow, and then I'm going to work my way to the other side of the beak with Cadmium Red, and then the Rose Madder mix, and then the shadow mix that's kind of purpley. Then with a barely damp brush, I lift out some of that color for the highlights of the beak. Sometimes, depending on how wet your paint is, you have to lift it out over and over and over. Come on, you can do it. There. We're going to use my blue shadow color for the nose here. Then we're going to use just lemon yellow on his neck again. That's the same as it was last time. For the eye, we're going to use the Rose Madder. I'm not going to change anything for the chest. The chest was perfect like it was last time, so we're just going to leave that as is. And using Payne's Gray for the black areas, and my gosh, I missed that color. You just can't get a dark black out of those other three colors. You can get one out of Ultramarine and Burnt Sienna, but I didn't have that choice. I'm going to finish out the details on the green just like I did last time, not changing anything there. Next, we're just going to finish everything else up pretty much exactly like we did it the last time, only on the blue we're using different colors. It's pretty much the same process, so I won't go through it all again, but we will see how different it is when we finish. Alright, here we go, and here is both of the finished sketches. I think you can see that there's a significant difference in at least the blue on those colors. And once we put the actual photo next to it, you can see that definitely the one on the right is a whole lot closer color-wise than the one in the middle. And it's not bad, you could probably get away with it, it's just that it's definitely not accurate to that bird. And so, the answer to the question of, do you need more than 3 colors to replicate anything that you want to replicate is, yes, I think you do. I think you need at least 6 colors. I think you need a warm and cool red, a warm and cool blue, and a warm and cool yellow at least, and probably a Payne's Gray or something like that as well, in order to replicate anything that you want to replicate. Now, for sure, it's definitely going to depend on how accurate you want to be in your colors, or how much of a color purist you are. But I think in order to be able to replicate anything that you want to be able to paint, you're going to need at least 6 primaries. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that stuff, because that's how this channel gets to grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.